Welcome to the LHS Survival Tips panel. I would like everyone to introduce themselves again with your name, your grade, and some activities that you do. I'll start. My name is Rachel. I'm a rising senior, and some of the activities that I do are that I run the AI Club at Lexington, and I'm in NHS.
Hi, I'm Anika. I'm also a rising senior, and I run the Neuroscience and Psychology Club, and I also play violin in the orchestra.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth. I'm a rising freshman in college, and some activities that I was involved in while at LHS were the Frisbee team, as well as starting my own stand club.
Hi, I'm Waiting. I'm also a rising senior in college, and I was involved with the LHS volleyball team, and I also led a club called LexCC.
Hi, I'm Isabel, and I'm a rising junior, and rising senior. And some activities that I'm involved in are NHS. I'm leader of Asian Drama Club and Yearbook.
Hi, I'm Koi Lei. I am a rising senior at LHS. I'm currently class council president, and I'm percussionist in the wind ensemble and percussion ensemble at LHS.
Hi, I'm Kyuho. I'm also a rising senior, and I'm in the a cappella program. I play varsity frisbee, and I'm the current NHS president.
Hi, my name's Athena. I'm a member of Senate. I'm co-president of Humans of LHS, and I'm on the editorial board for the Musket and LexBex.
Hi, I'm Evan. I'm a rising freshman in college, and I did debate and soccer and some school newspaper stuff.
Rachel, you're muted.
Yeah, that's everyone. I'm just gonna start with an icebreaker. What are you guys doing over quarantine? Personally, I've been starting pen pals, and I've been sending letters to people.
I've been exercising more, and I've been trying out some new crafts.
I've been baking a lot and also just spending time with my family.
I've also been doing some baking, and I also did some arts and crafts projects.
I've mostly been drawing more.
Over this past quarantine, I think I started writing and reading a lot more, which I haven't gotten the chance to do like over high school. So.
I started making music and producing more because I didn't have enough time during the school year to do that.
I've been watching more movies and practicing my photography.
I've been cooking a lot and also watching movies.
All right, that sounds really good. Let's get into it. What are your favorite freshman memories?
Rachel, do you want to share first?
Yeah, I'll go. I actually kind of liked the idea of doing, like, I liked having people in homeroom that I could rely on, and also those same people were in my English class and my social studies class. I think having those same people there gave me a lot of comfort.
Yeah, I also liked having the same homeroom and English and history classes. I thought it was nice to have a group of people that I could become friends with, and I didn't have to like actively seek out other places to find friends. Yeah.
If anyone else has any like freshman memories they want to share, please feel free to speak up.
Yeah, I could share. I remember one of the craziest things to me was coming into high school and being able to sit like anywhere I wanted for lunch. Because in middle school you had the cafeteria, and then I guess some kids went in the hallways. I don't really know. At least that's how it was at Diamond. But at LHS you can sit, in like the Commons 1 and outside when it's nice, which is really great.
Yeah, and building off of that, I just love the relative freedom that all of LHS has. You can do whatever you want because there are like hundreds of clubs to choose from. And then after school, you can walk to the center, get some work done at the library. It's just a lot more freedom than in middle school.
Yeah, I definitely like, especially with the library thing, like freshman year, I spent most of my week after school in the library doing homework with friends, and that's so I met a lot of people there, so it's good. You want to move on to the next question?
I think a lot of people want to know how the GPA/grading system works, and I think I think the two main things that I've learned from my experience is that it's very unweighted based on the rigor of your class, and it's weighted based on credit system, and it's like your normal grading system, except you shouldn't really pay attention to, you know, whether it's like an honors or AP class or whatever. You should pay more attention in terms of GPA. And I think a lot of people are asking that, and I think that is like a very simple answer to that.
All right, so the GPA, should we answer or? All right. So for LHS, we have an unweighted GPA grading system, as you guys probably know, which basically means that if you take an honors or an AP class, you won't be weighted extra, like to your benefit, if you take that class. The grade you get is going to be the grade you get. But it does matter like how many credits your class is. So for instance, AP Chem is 6 credits. Meanwhile, I think normal chem is 5 credits,
Yeah.
so it will be weighted differently in your overall GPA, and it just has like 3.67 for A minus, 4 for a straight A, 3.33 for a B plus, and basically that score, which you get at the end of the year, is multiplied by the number of credits you have divided by the total credits you have, and that's your GPA for the year. Yeah.
Does anyone else have anything to say about this specific topic?
Couldn't have said it better.
All right, great. So yeah, does anyone have anything to say about you know, class rigor and teachers, I guess?
Yeah, I can talk about this. So class rigor, to some extent, depends on the teacher, but that's just because some teachers will teach more thoroughly some areas than others. So it might vary how much you have to study for that specific class, how much you have to learn your own. But generally, all the teachers are going to assign, you know, the same workload. They're going to give you the same difficulty of tests. So if you take, as long as you're taking the same level of class, so like honors earth science, all those classes, no matter what you hear about different teachers, they're going to be basically the same. And regular earth science is going to be a little bit easier across the board.
Yeah, and then something else I also want to add on to that is I know there's there's a lot of like instances of people, I mean not a lot, but like some people might be inclined to like switch out of a class because they've heard things about the way the teacher grades and like, or like not taking, let's say like an AP class or something because of one teacher. But I don't recommend taking classes solely based on the teacher, because a lot of times the teachers change, like a different teacher could be taking the teaching of the class and then they could change their grading system. It's not worth being bothered over.
All right, okay. How did you guys balance between your academics and your extracurriculars?
So I think for something important to keep in mind, whether you are a student or a parent who prioritizes the whole like college thing, is that extracurriculars are almost or just as important, if not more, to academics, just because you're learning different things from the activities and you're gaining different things that you can't get from the school system. So I think extracurriculars, they really offer you a chance to work with people depending on what you do. And also everybody does different things. So you're diversifying your own personality different than your friends. So like for example, like I have friends who do Frisbee or are the co-president of Neuroscience Club. So I think doing different things is a really important something really important to keep in mind, and don't put too much on your plate. I know that in LHS it can get really overwhelming when you want to do a lot of things. So make sure you're doing what makes you happy. If that's extracurriculars, I dropped swimming when I was in sophomore year because it was like a huge time commitment, and I would rather be doing other things with my time. So just don't be afraid of dropping the things that you want to drop and making time for other things.
Yeah, all right. So did you guys use any methods to organize your notes? How did you make study guides, etc.? So, like, how did you guys prepare for your school, and like, how did you organize yourself?
So I think there are a lot of different ways that you can organize, and it really depends on what works for you. But it's important to, have some sort of method of organization. And I think it's really helpful to write everything down in a planner or in some sort of like planner app so that you don't forget like any of the homework that you have to do. And also what I would suggest, because I had a very, very heavy backpack in freshman year, is after each like unit in class is over, try to take out the papers that you think you don't need anymore and put them somewhere safe and sort them by subject. That's something that helped me stay organized and also not break my back. So yeah.
How did you guys like avoid procrastination, or did you avoid it at all? And was it easy to survive if you procrastinate?
I think.
No, you can go. You can go.
Okay. I think for me, I avoided procrastination just the sense of like by writing everything down and on a like physical planner and seeing what you have to do. I think that really helps. And of course you could also just wait until, I don't know, the day before something is due and do it. And I know that works for some people, but then also like if you know that you're not one of those people that can do that, plan out like your schedule for like large assignments and things like that.
Yeah, I think I'm on the other side of the spectrum in that respect. My organization skills are very primitive, and in terms of procrastination, I am definitely a procrastinator. I think something that I learned, or my percussion teacher told me in sophomore year, is that what doesn't hurt you only helps. Of course, there's more nuance to that statement, but for me, it was in terms of practicing percussion, piano, and how to spend my time. And I think that also goes for procrastination. I think you can definitely find healthy ways to procrastinate, if that means taking your mind off studying for too long, or practicing for too long, or doing something that has a direct result. If you spend your time procrastinating, doing something else that benefits you in another way, that could definitely be really helpful, and it makes you feel less guilty.
Okay. Are we moving on or?
Oh, I'm kind of worried about time, but yeah.
Okay, we can just go ahead.
All right, great. Yeah, can freshmen take AP classes?
No.
Yeah, they can't. So like, I spent a lot of time in middle school thinking about what AP classes and what they would be like. And in freshman year, you can't really take any. So like you can chill and explore and get like adjusted to it. I think the main purpose of freshman year is. But with your experience as upperclassmen taking AP classes, are they hard? What's it like?
AP classes are harder than normal level classes or like the honors level classes, but it really depends on the person that's taking them. So if you feel like you're interested in the subject and that you are comfortable taking a pretty fast-paced class, then AP classes might be, a good level for you. And some people find them easy, some people find them really, really hard. And it's up to you to decide if it's a good fit for you.
All right, yeah. So every year, a lot of incoming freshmen don't know this, but every year we have this thing called counselor seminar. Does anyone want to talk about how it's different between the years and how they experienced it and what was it like for them?
Probably seniors should talk about this since they did senior seminar.
Yeah, I can talk about this. So counselor seminar is when you and some people in your grade meet with your counselor for around, I think, 3 weeks, and just for a block, so you have an hour with your counselor. And each year it's focused on different things. So in freshman year, it will probably be more about adjusting to high school and your goals, while in senior year, it's more geared towards college grads. So it's a really good way to get to know your counselor, ask a lot of questions regarding just the stresses of high school or more logistical things rather than like educational like subjects. And I think it's a really good time to get to know your counselor over a period of 4 years. And of course, you can always meet with your counselor outside of counselor seminar, but it's just a good way for you to interact with your counselor.
Yeah, great. Thanks for the good advice. What were your favorite classes throughout high school? Personally, I really liked my comp sci class. The teacher, it was really, really fun to get all my labs and then just think about how I would do them. And also I really liked my chamber class. It was really fun.
For me, my favorite class throughout high school was probably my freshman history class or English class, just because it was a big step up from the middle school in terms of like writing and reading. And it was really interesting to learn and practice these new skills.
My
Yeah.
favorite class, is someone gonna go? No,
Go ahead.
My favorite class was AP Bio. I think that was sophomore year. And even though that was a class that even though it was really hard, I think the content was really interesting and the teacher was really good, and I met a lot of people through that class. So
My
Yeah.
favorite class, you can go.
Okay. Yeah. One of my favorite classes was AP Chem, and I also found it, challenging but not too challenging. And I also had a very good teacher, and I found the content really interesting.
My favorite class of my high school career thus far is AP World. In sophomore year, AP World History. I think they kind of split the class in two now, like the College Board, but in general, it's a very interesting class, and you learn a lot about like politics and society from it.
My favorite class was my junior year honors English class. I think a lot of the topics that were covered in that class stretched beyond just writing skills, and we talked a lot about like transcendentalism and just being like connecting being a high schooler and also into an English class. So I thought it was a really good class to just look beyond just LHS type of thing.
Like Kyuho, my favorite class was freshman year history and English, since I also think it was a big step up from middle school level history and English, and you learn a lot about like reading and analyzing texts.
Someone discussed this earlier about credits. So we're just going to ask about AP Bio, which apparently a lot of parents and kids want to know about. So how hard is it to get into AP Bio?
This is coming from somebody who had to appeal to get into AP Bio, and I didn't take honors earth science freshman year. So I got in, but it was in the appeal process, you just have to write. I don't know if they changed it from when I did, but I answered 3 questions, wrote a letter. It was pretty standard. But AP, just gonna say now, AP Bio is a lot harder to get into than I think some of the other AP sciences as you get up, especially if you're not from honors. So, but it's not impossible. You should try it.
I think the three requirements for getting into it are, I think your midterm has to be good, your like general grades have to be good, and then your like tests in general, like your test average has to be good. I think those are the three elements of the way to get in, I guess.
I would
think
also
they
add.
dropped the midterm.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say I think they dropped the midterm requirement this year.
I just want to say, like, I didn't take honors science, honors or science, and I didn't have any trouble getting into AP Bio. So I wouldn't say like you have to take honors or science in order to get into AP Bio, because I think teachers also do understand that each individual student has like different strengths. So you might not be the best at earth science, so that's why you didn't take like honors earth science, but you're really interested in bio. And I think that, yeah, you don't need to take all the honors classes in order to get into the highest level classes, at least for earth science.
I'm also going to say that, like, don't feel guilty or don't feel like you're obliged to get into AP Bio. I didn't get into AP Bio, and there's like a lot more people that I know who are doing really well, and it doesn't, like, don't let that impact you and how you think you are. Yeah, so how do you test into language levels? From people who, like, if you know the language already, if you want to test into like a higher language level, how would you do that?
I tested into Mandarin, and I just emailed the Mandarin teacher that was organized all of the Mandarin stuff, and then I went into the high school one day after school, and they just gave me a test.
Okay. And the national language, or like Latin, for example, exam is similar to the ones that you take in middle school, I think. I took the French one in middle school, and they're just like it's an out of school thing that you do in school, and it doesn't really count towards your grade. It's just like a score for, an activity or an award.
Yeah, it's the same. It's like a continuation of the ones you took in middle school if you did take them.
Does someone want to explain the 5-point and 9-point scales for the grading system in math?
I can do it. So the 5-point grading system is basically you take a test, you get scored from 1 to 5, where 5 is a correct answer with also a good explanation, and like all your work is shown. 4, like probably a correct answer as well, maybe a couple like minor errors or your work isn't clear, and 3, 2, 1, so on. Then the 9-point scale is basically the same thing. 9 is correct answer, everything's good. 8 is maybe like a minor error. So yeah, it's basically up to the math teacher. You get what grade you're going to get, and it's to make sure that you both have a good answer, have the right answer, and you actually like show your work.
Okay, and for those of you who took stuff like RSM or Kumon, did it help at all with your math?
So I took RSM and Kumon throughout, I think, most of middle school. I was here since 7th grade, so 7th grade and 8th grade, and 9th grade and 10th grade. So I also dropped RSM and I dropped Kumon first, and then I dropped RSM. And I think that doing RSM, actually, we did topics like a year before. We did them in school. I would say the way of learning isn't for everyone. And I think I found that out at a certain point that it wasn't for me. And I think that it's something that you can definitely try out if you are someone who's into that, but don't feel that there's like an obligation to, because I think I did just as fine without RSM and Kumon this past year than I did in previous years with RSM and Kumon. So I think people can get along with it just fine without.
Yeah, I just want to say that like once you get to like 10th or 11th grade, the RSM experience becomes kind of hellish in that it's a 4-hour program, and I had to wake up at like 8 a.m. and then like the class went from 8:30 to like 12:30, and it was a lot to sit through, and I don't know how much of that is worth your mental health.
I'll just add to that. Like, I think the biggest thing about math at LHS is getting to know your math teachers. So go to office hours after school and actually get to know your math teacher and spend a lot of time just doing math problems and doing math homework. A lot of upper class classes of math, they don't count homework as part of your grade. So it's definitely a choice, but I think it's like a strongly recommended choice that you do your homework because those questions end up coming up on the test. So you don't necessarily need to have like RSM or Kumon or just tutors in general. Obviously, if you have the resources or time to do so, it probably wouldn't hurt. But I think that it's definitely possible to get through LHS math without having a tutor or spending a lot of money just on math.
Yeah, for those of you who did APCS, what was the class experience like? And did you need also a tutor to get into it, I guess?
So the way that most people get into AP Comp Sci is you take normal Comp Sci in some year, and then the next year you can take the AP class. So normal is C++, I think, and they might be adding a new course. I don't know. I've heard something about that. But AP is Java. So it's two different classes and you're going to learn two different things. But it's also possible to, I think, get into AP Comp Sci without taking the normal Comp Sci class, but I don't know about that. So someone else can talk about that.
Adding on to what Nika just said, I think they're adding a new Python course as an intro class next year. So there will be 2 intro classes, and I think you only have to take the Python if you have like 0 experience, and you can probably like get out of it if you have previous experience to just take the comp sci class. But yeah, things are gonna get a little.
Yeah. I don't know if anyone here knows about how to get into AP Comp Sci with previous experience. Like, what do you have to
I think
do?
it's similar to the language levels in which you just talk to a teacher, but I think they have a legitimate test in which they give you a piece of paper and then you have to code it, and then that'll just determine whether you pass or not. There's also, I think, APCSP, which you take before AP Comp Sci, which goes into that one too. I think.
Yeah, and that's basically AP Comp Sci principles for anyone who.
Oh yeah, I took APCSP this past year, and I'm taking APCSA next year.
So should we also talk about the class experience?
If you want.
Okay, it's a fun class. I had fun in the class. You're not necessarily going to be taught much. You're going to probably be taught like the basic like skills of coding, but most of it is just projects that you complete, and it's a pretty fun class. And I think if you like computer science, you will enjoy the class, even though you might not be taught much. You will learn a lot.
Adding on, yeah, the class is rather independent. You can collaborate with other people in the class, but you just can't have the exact same code, but you can like figure out stuff together. And you basically just ask your teachers, or if you have a TA, you ask the TA questions and you finish labs. And there will be like reference sheets in Google Classroom, and that's basically how you learn your material.
Yeah. Does anyone want to talk about how the music programs for orchestra, band, jazz band, chorus, etc. work, and how do the a cappella groups work, etc.?
Yeah, I can talk about this if no one else wants to.
I can talk about
the band. Okay, I'll talk about orchestra then. So the orchestra system, there are 3 orchestras: rep orchestra, symphony, and chamber. Rep is the lowest level and chamber is the most advanced. So every freshman that comes into LHS has to take 1 year of rep orchestra, which is kind of annoying, but whatever. But after that, you have, I think, not options, but you can skip symphony orchestra to go to chamber orchestra. But what most people do they do rep freshman year, and then after that they can audition for symphony. And once they spend 1 year in symphony, they can go to chamber. So there's also the option of in freshman year or sophomore year, whenever, basically, if you get into all states, which we will talk about later, I think, then you can that year you can audition for chamber, so you can skip from rep to chamber.
We had a question. Is it normal to put orchestra in the last 2 years of high school, as in any potential problems?
I don't know about normal, but like people definitely do it. You can definitely start orchestra in later years. And I think I've read in the course description that you can actually, upperclassmen, if they're coming into orchestra for the first time, they can audition and be let directly into chamber without having to do rep orchestra. So that's totally an option, and I don't think there are any potential problems with that.
I mean, there's like a specific amount of art credits you need to fulfill by the end of your high school career, but I think, yeah, it's fine.
If you take 2 years of orchestra, your art credits will be done also. So
Yeah, so for the band program, there are 3 bands. There's the symphonic band, there's the concert band, and then there's wind ensemble in ascending level. So contrary to the orchestra program, you can audition into any 3 of the bands straight off from middle school. And so from any of the bands, you can they have different directors. And also something to note is that I think I'll let Kiho talk a little bit about the acapella program, but any instrumental student can also audition for acapella. So any student in the music department, whether you're an orchestra, band, or chorus, you don't have to just be in chorus, can audition for acapella, which is a great opportunity.
Okay, we also had some more questions.
We're going to do questions at the end.
Okay, we can do, okay, yeah, so just like send in all your questions and then we'll answer them, a bunch of them in the end, if they're not answered by the time we, get through the presentation. Does someone want to talk about acapella?
Yeah, sure, I got it. Well, first, so the chorus program at LHS, it starts at chorale, and
Hugo,
you can
kind of
audition
lagging.
to chamber staff for chorale. What?
Oh, you were lagging a bit, but I think you're okay now.
Sorry, yeah. Okay, so there's you start off in the chorale. Everyone can sign up for chorale, and then every April, so there's the same auditions, which you can get into any of the 3 honors choruses, just like band. And talking about the acapella program, so anyone who takes a music class can audition for the acapella groups. The auditions at the beginning of the year, and throughout the year there are 3 concerts which the groups perform at, and it's a great community. It's really supportive, and it's a good extracurricular to just keep as a stress reliever, and it's a good group of people to be with.
It's also completely student-led, so
yeah,
the students run the auditions and run the program. So I think you usually do 2 rehearsals for like 2 hours a week, and that's up to the group to decide when you do those.
Just like a broader statement, this is like the music program. There's also like an arts department. So when we're talking about how you have to fulfill certain art credits, you can fulfill those through band, chorus, orchestra, but you can also do that through art classes or drama classes or public speaking classes. So that's an option for everyone.
All right, so I guess all of you guys have talked about your different classes. Now it's time to talk about gyms. How many credits are gyms? I think they're half a credit. No, I think they're 1 credit because they do it now on a semester basis. And a semester means like half a year. So you take a gym to do it half a year. What are your, I guess, favorite and least favorite gyms and your advice? I guess like my advice would be don't take fencing because you need to wear this like suit and it's really sweaty in the suit.
Yeah, same goes with rollerblading. It's like you don't really want to share like sweaty gear with people. But Yeah, I think LHS offers a lot of gym classes.
Yeah, there are
Badminton's
a lot
really
of
cool.
options. There are a lot of different sports, and also like yoga and mind body mechanics is another one. So there's a lot of variety in the gym classes, and there's no guarantee that you're gonna get
Especially the short
the one you choose, but it's possible, and you always get a preference. And there's a lot of all the classes are okay. Like they're all decent classes. Some of them you might just like more than
I think a lot of incoming freshmen also ask, how do I navigate buildings? It's a lot of buildings. It's like 5, 6 buildings. But I guess the key here is that they've labeled them now. So you can see that depending on the class or like the kind of class you take, whether it's like a science or a math, all of them are in the same building. So if all the sciences are in like the science building, for example, and you would just use this to navigate. But like, don't worry about about navigating. You'll get it. It's not very difficult. I think the worst part is like passing time and wishing you run from the main building to the math building, which is really far away. But I think it makes sense and you'll be okay.
Yeah, and the first,
Yeah, I was
sorry.
gonna say freshman teachers are pretty forgiving.
Yeah. I was gonna say on the first day of school, only freshmen come to school, and that's the day it's called Step Up Day, I think. And basically, a bunch of peer mentors, a bunch of students at the high school are there, and it's just the freshmen that are at the school that day. So it's a day to figure out your schedule and how to get to your classes on the first day. So don't be too worried about that. We're here to help you.
And on the day after that, when everybody's in school, there will be peer mentors around the school they're supposed to be wearing shirts that say peer mentor on them. So you can ask them to like help you find a class or a building or whatever. And it's really no big deal. So.
And also, I think just not only peer mentors, but any upperclassmen should be happy to help you if you just tell them, I'm trying to get to class like 100 something or 300 something. Can you help me like figure out where that is? I'm lost. And I think most of the upperclassmen at LHS will be happy to help out.
Do you guys have any advice on community service? LHS requires you to have, I think, 40 hours, and then NHS is an additional 20, I think, per year of NHS that you're in it. So my advice would just be like you should clear your community service pretty early in your first 2 years so that you're able to get freeze, like you're able to free up your schedule later, and be able to leave campus.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any advice for like how to get good community service, or how to get like really nice?
It's not that hard to get your community service done, even though 40 hours does seem kind of daunting at first, because you can get them done over the summer. For instance, I was a CIT at this camp for my summer of freshman year, and it was just like 2 weeks or so, but I got 60 hours from that because you spend a lot of time with the kids each day, and you can log that all in, and you'll be done for like the rest of your graduation requirements.
What Rachel was talking about earlier about how you get freeze, LHS requires a certain amount of hours to be completed before you are able to get freeze. So when you're an underclassman, so freshman or sophomore year, you guys have study halls. So you guys will be in like a classroom and just doing silent work. But when you are junior or senior, those study halls turn into freeze. So you are able to go anywhere you want around campus. Just make sure you go to your class on time, but that's why people tend to do their community service hours as early as possible, so they have the option to have freeze when they're a junior.
Actually, I'm pretty sure that you have freeze. It's just if you don't get your community service hours done, you can't leave campus for those freeze, which a lot of upperclassmen do. So.
One more note for community service, just in general, I think I would suggest people to do like one project for multiple hours instead of having like 1 hour here and 2 hours there. For one, it's easier to fill out on the forms, and second, it's just like it's easier to organize, and in a way it looks better if you care about that. So yeah.
I think like just the comment there is like don't do community service hours just because you're trying to get them done as fast as you can. Like you can do that if you want, but a lot of community service hours is like genuine work that you're doing for a community, and it should be meaningful. It shouldn't just feel like a taxing chore. I know a lot of people do community service hours and get like hundreds and hundreds of hours because they genuinely like the thing that they're doing, and that should just be your goal when you are looking for community service opportunities.
Okay, great. All right. So I guess friend groups, do you guys have any advice for how to find friends, coming from, Clark and Diamond?
I know that at least I know that there is a Clark and Diamond rivalry. But literally the moment you enter high school, after the first week, everyone forgets that they went to different middle schools. So I just say be open to that. So
something great
also,
about
go ahead.
Okay. Something great about freshman year is that for your homeroom, with your homeroom group, you guys go to the same English and the same history. So I think you'll become really tight with your homeroom group in that first year, and you'll probably make friends within your homeroom. But I think quickly after that, you don't have the same classes anymore, the same history and English. So you probably will drift away. But that's just me.
Yeah, I think besides, history and English in freshman year, your other classes are also a really great way to make friends, and also clubs. So if you find people in the same classes or clubs that you're in, it's likely that they're going to have similar interests and that you're going to get along really well. Like some of my close friends I've made through classes in freshman or sophomore year, and especially in the clubs that I'm participating in, because everyone in those classes and clubs is dedicated to the same things that I am. So it just makes for really good friendships that are going to last for a long time.
All right, so now's the time to, I guess, advertise any clubs that you run or that you're part of. So I run primarily a AI club, Artificial Intelligence Club, which is basically able to make AI knowledge accessible to people without, needing to pay for a class. So yeah, join my club. And all of you guys, if you guys want to promote the clubs that you're part of, here's your time to speak.
Yeah, I run neuroscience and psychology, which is a lecture-based club where we present on many different topics related to neuroscience and psychology, obviously. And it's a really fun club. It's really chilled. We watch movies at the end. I also run IL Youth Club, Indian Americans of Lexington. So if you're Indian and you're interested in coming up with events that are going to benefit the community and are culturally enriching, then that's what we do. So yeah.
I can talk about peer mentors, which I mentioned earlier, and that's basically a group of students, really large group of students, that there's two groups. It's transfer students and freshmen. Freshman peer mentors, they're there when freshmen enter on that first day that's just for freshmen, and they tour with them. And I think two freshman peer mentors get assigned to your homeroom when you're a freshman, and you see them for I don't know how long. I know it's at least a month, and you can ask them questions, and they're just kind of there to make sure you're doing okay. And I'm a transfer student peer mentor, and that group, it's really fun. You have to give tours to new students who are transferring around the school, and you get to miss parts of class because it's early in the morning.
Yeah. So at LHS for student government, which I know some people want to get involved in, I would say there's two big things. There's Senate and then there's class council. And so Nick can probably speak to Senate a little bit more. For class council, which is what I'm on, they're specific for each class. So you have the freshman, sophomore, junior, senior, so on. And basically the class council decides on fundraising events, working towards prom. Usually have 2 events a year. So one smaller event, which is like a dance or something like that. And then you have prom, or for freshmen and sophomore, they're different. But it's really up to you. It's a great time. I know it's the people that make it a great time. So if you want to participate and have a voice and talk about some cool, fun like stuff for the class, then you get to do that at class council.
I can just quickly talk about NHS because I know I saw a question on what NHS is. It's short for National Honor Society, and a lot of high schools around the country partake in this program. So you basically apply your junior year, so you don't need to really worry about that until you're an upperclassman. And a lot of it has to do with about like academics and being like a leader in like community, really like big broad topics that you don't really need to get super involved in yet until your junior year. But basically, in order to become an NHS member, you just have to do 20 hours of specifically, I think, Lexington community service.
Yeah, and I think I saw a question about leadership positions. So the one way to get into a leadership position is to start your own club, which is always fun. But don't just start a club because you feel like you should, because there's absolutely no need, and there are already so many clubs in the school. But if you are interested in an area that isn't being covered by any of the clubs already there, then definitely it's a great option to start a club. But you also want to be wary of starting a club that's very similar to one of the ones already in existence, because the dean that runs the clubs is very particular about not having duplicate clubs. So just be careful that you look over the club list and make sure that your club isn't overlapping with something else. And the other way to get into a leadership position is to be a consistent member of the club for a year or more until a leadership position opens up. And that basically just means come to club every day or as much as you can, really. If you try to get a leadership position without ever coming to the club or rarely coming, then the leaders are probably not going to give you that position, speaking from experience. Because as a leader, I know I want the future leaders to be people that are committed to the club and that are going to actually put time into it.
Since we're already on the topic, I just wanted to emphasize something that's really important that came up, is join the club for like the topic and not because you want the leadership position in the club, because you want to do something you really enjoy. Because if you really do want to like do like a leadership position or whatever, you have to actually like the topic of the club, and you want to actually like the time you're putting in, like the commitment you're putting into the club. So like consider that before you think about, oh, I just want to put this on like my resume because it looks good. No, you want to do the club because you actually like what it's about.
And adding on to what Quinning said, like as you become an upperclassman and those leadership opportunities are more available to you, your time is also limited. So spend the time that you have where you want to spend your time. I know like a lot of people have talked about doing things that you want to do, and I also saw a question on how do you like likable among your peers, whether that be in like clubs or anything. And it just comes out of genuine interest and like genuine passion towards a certain subject. I think that it's hard to like force yourself to do something you don't like for a long period of time. So it's just really important to try things out, but then narrow it down to things that you actually want to do, and that's how you get leadership positions.
I know that Evan, I think you're part of the debate team. Would you like to say anything about, how debate works?
Yeah. So freshmen can sign up. I mean, rising freshmen can sign up for the debate team, and the people who are chosen to be part of the team, well, it's more so like a collection of classes. It's not really like an official team. It's randomly chosen, and then you get placed into a novice class. You get introduced to different types of debate topics, and then your sophomore year, you join the varsity debate class. So the class is no different from any other classes from LHS. There's a teacher, and then she gives you grades. But then the people who are in the debate class have the opportunities to sign up for different tournaments. And there's about one tournament per week. And debaters usually go to about like 4 tournaments per year or more. So it's super flexible. You get to choose when you want to go to tournaments, when you don't. And then usually there are about 4 topics each year, depending what type of debate you do. And then you do research on those topics. And then the tournaments are all over the United States. There's some in New York, Florida, California, etc. So you get to travel all over the place.
Okay. I guess I could talk briefly about science fair. Science fair is just like every year. You get this opportunity to present like a science or engineering project in front of a bunch of judges. Each project is worth 1 independent study credit, and there's like school rounds, and then they give you awards for school, and then you move on to the regional and state rounds. And if you're very lucky or you do very well, you go to ISEF. So I know this question came up earlier. So what would you guys recommend over quarantine now that some summer programs are canceled? Or like, what would you recommend people to do over quarantine right now? Personally, I would just say like, get some cool hobbies. Harvard has a bunch of online classes that you can just like take, if there's something that you're very interested in, you should just take a class in it. There's a lot of online opportunities and classes now. Yeah, and then just like work on your hobbies or improve yourself a little, like do some habit stuff.
Yeah, I agree. Okay. Yeah, I agree completely with Rachel. I think taking this time now that you're out of, for us at least, we're out of the whole high school grind sort of thing. And I think most of you guys are going to begin it. So I think it's important to focus on finding the stuff and figuring out the stuff that you wouldn't usually have the time to do when you're doing homework and when you're getting ready for classes and grades and all that stuff. So that means like if you want to study and if you want to, read through textbooks and stuff, that's you can do that. But I think you also have the opportunity now to do other things, sort of, finding new hobbies, finding new passions, and finding out more about yourself, reading more books, just sort of enriching stuff that enriches your personal mental health, your happiness in your life. Essentially, it's a
All right. What are your experiences with mental health across high school? And I feel like we're a little bit short on time, so I'm going to try to maybe speed this up a little, or skip some small questions. But what was your mental health experience over the course of high school, and what kind of resources did you guys have exposed to? I think personally, my guidance counselor was a big help. Guidance counselor quality can definitely vary, but mine was very good. And LYFS is a local organization that gives out some counseling sessions if you want, like some kind of drop-in therapies, if you need it,
Yeah, I think we have a question relevant to this in the chat. So Michelle is asking, on average, how many hours do you spend homework every day? How many hours of sleep every night? How do you spend the rest of your time? So personally, I get a lot of sleep, but I know a lot of my friends they sleep at 12 or 1 and wake up at 6:30. And my advice is don't do that. It's not going to help you to stay up super late. And if it's unavoidable, then fine. But it's completely possible to have extracurriculars, clubs, schoolwork, and do well in school and also get enough sleep. Sleep is really important, and I feel like a lot of high schoolers don't value that at all. But try to get a good amount of sleep so you feel rested, because when you're rested, you can do better work in school.
Yeah.
And about hours of homework, it varies based on the level of classes you take. So think about that when you're choosing your classes for the next year. I don't know, how many hours do the rest of you guys spend on homework?
I think it really depends on what season it is. I think especially approaching finals, I start doing a lot of work, or AP season, I start doing a lot. I think in terms of sleep, I try to get like 6. I think that's good enough for me. But I like when I go home, I take a small nap. You know.
Yeah, sometimes in LHS, there's kind of, or in Lexington in general, there can kind of be this culture of the suffering Olympics in which you're trying to kind of, do the most work as possible because you want to compare yourself to others. And sometimes people might compare, like, how little did you sleep last night? But all of that kind of stuff is irrelevant at the end of the day. And, like, be sure to focus on your mental health because it really does take the toll. Like, one day where you deprive yourself of sleep might not be that bad, but like after a week or a couple of weeks doing so, you're really going to feel that kind of weigh down on your brain and your ability to take tests and do your homework.
Yeah, and I think the last part of that question, oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Okay, so the last part of that question is asking, how do you spend the rest of your time? So I think most people split that between sports, if they do sports, and clubs, extracurriculars that aren't affiliated with the school. Like, I play an instrument. I know a lot of other people do as well. And there are a bunch of other things you can do outside of school. And the rest of the time is basically taken up by schoolwork.
Yeah, something I was gonna. Oh, yeah. No, you were gonna go. Sorry.
Like adding on to that, I know it sounds really overwhelming because it feels like besides school, like high schoolers always have to do like extracurriculars or like do sports and like go from here to here. But also just along that lines of mental health, like spend time just doing the things that you like to do. So for me personally, that was going to church every Friday and Sunday. And that just doesn't have to do anything with like college apps or like going to like using my brain or anything like that, but it's just something that I genuinely enjoyed. And if you don't work in time for you to do things that you like to do, it is really easy for you to get really overwhelmed and stressed. So just keep that in mind as well.
Yeah. He's also like I don't want anybody to get an impression that like, oh, all we do is extracurriculars and homework and then we sleep and we don't do anything else. Like at least for me, I guess scroll over like on YouTube on my phone for like 30 minutes before I actually do anything. And I still get all my homework done in time. I still do extracurriculars and hasn't impacted me. It's great for my mental health.
Yeah, I think a close support system is also a big part of it. Having a solid friend group to talk through things that helped me a lot through my freshman and sophomore year. And also, I know we have a lot of parents here, and I think it's important to listen to your kids because a lot of this stuff with mental health and with high school and just life, you can't quantify a lot of things. You can't, say you spend this amount of time doing this, you spend this amount of time doing this, and everything is okay. And some people, a regimented sort of routine works for them, but that's like up to them. I think when it comes to mental health, a happier student is much more effective than a student who's doing what they're supposed to do, So just keep in mind to listen to your kids, especially throughout the whole high school experience, and talk to them about this sort of stuff because it can get stressful.
Okay, do you guys have a lot to say? We're a little bit pressed for time also, but like, do you guys have a lot to say about, peer pressure? I think is an experience that we all had throughout high school. Does anyone have stuff to say about that?
I can't really talk about like some kinds of peer pressure, but I know there's, like Athena was saying, there's a huge culture at LHS to compare who is like struggling the most in their classes or taking the hardest classes. And that is a form of peer pressure. So it's important that you don't let other people influence what classes you're going to take, what clubs you're going to do. Choose clubs not based on what your friends are doing or what like other people recommend. Choose them because you're interested in them. And same with classes. Don't take an AP class because everyone else is taking it or you think you need the AP credit, because AP credits are good, but they're not gonna like make you get into college any more easily. So just make sure that you're thinking for yourself. And peer pressure also goes for parents, even though they're not your peers. For students out there, don't let your parents pressure you into taking classes that you don't think you're ready for. But obviously listen to their advice, but make sure you're just thinking for.
Adding on to the peer pressure thing, like looking back on high school, one thing I kind of regretted was like how much my friends and I would talk about grades in classes. Like maybe it was like for a specific test, or maybe it was for like the whole class. It's like maybe for like one person, like they're really good at math or something, or they're like, oh no, I got an A minus and you're over here sitting with a B. Like I thought I did really well. I was happy with my grade until you decide to talk. So like you're gonna, like, if you talk to your friends and other people about your grades, you can't help but compare yourself to other people, when the most important thing when learning is comparing to your past self, seeing whether you improved or not, and not maybe comparing your weaknesses to other people's strengths, because that just stresses you out and brings you down.
Yeah, like adding on to what Flaming said, like I genuinely believe that everyone has their own like unique set of strengths, and they don't all have to be AP World History or AP Chemistry. And you know, like high school is definitely a time where you're still allowed to make mistakes and try new things. So being peer pressure to enforce yourself into a certain box, I think that's one of the biggest regrets that you can have in high school. So as someone who's like finishing off high school, there are definitely classes that I wish that I would have tried that I didn't get to because I was so worried about doing other things or spending my time on other things. So that's just a little tip.
I think another sort of peer pressure that I'm sure parents are worried about is regarding like drugs and alcohol, which, as it does exist within every high school, you can also find at LHS. And I think the most important way to stay healthy and to make safe decisions is to educate yourself. I mean, you certainly do have the health program, and you certainly do have program in middle school, and it's all over the news. But I think stay cognizant that at some point there may come a time where you're faced with a choice to make a decision that, if you're educated and if you know what you're getting yourself into, you can choose to deny, or you may choose another option. And I think another factor that goes into that is your stress level. And I think making sure that you're happy with everything that you're doing, and you're happy with your extracurriculars and your work and everything in your life is also plays a really big role in drug prevention. So.
All right, so I guess we move into some of like the general questions that I think a lot of incoming freshmen will ask. So, you know, like, when should I start thinking about college?
Okay.
Sorry.
Wait, are you talking about it?
Oh yeah, I'll just say like a little bit, you know. My answer would just be, if you're a freshman, not now. You really don't need to rush. You don't need to make your college list at the moment. Like, you should take time exploring yourself and your hobbies, and like, you know, doing things that you enjoy and getting.
I would say I remember like I didn't think about college at all until like SATs came up, and I remember there's people like doing like SAT prep starting like maybe end of freshman year, and I remember just looking at them like I felt like I felt slightly bad for them, because that was really unnecessary, I guess. Looking back on it, I would say don't think about it for the first 2 years at least, and just enjoy the college, just enjoy the high school experience. And like when it's time for you to start college applications, which for me was like the summer before senior year, like you will have the time to do it. You don't have to like rush thinking about it and think, oh, I'm behind just because like everybody else is starting before you.
I think, I mean, I guess this is a general question. How do you guys find, you know, passion? Or like, when people talk about passion, what do they mean?
Well, passion, I feel like, is this word that's like said to be something amazing that you're just going to get this like light bulb and be like, wow, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. But while some people might have that moment, I think most people won't. And really the best way to find passion is to just explore your interests and like find things that you like to do and develop those interests so that maybe one day you'll find out that one of the things is like the thing you want to study in college, or that you want to find a job in that area.
And then I guess like another similar one is like, when should you take SATs? And my answer again is, if you're a freshman, not now.
Yeah, no, especially I mean, with this whole coronavirus thing, it is like we've had trouble taking our SATs, but this should, I mean, I'm not like a doctor or anything, but don't worry about it right now. You're freshman. In fact, most colleges don't want to see you take your SAT like freshman or sophomore year. So
Yeah, I think an important thing to remember with standardized testing is that it's standardized, and that's what your whole curriculum is built around. So the SATs and ACTs, their material is built around all the things that you've learned since you were in elementary and middle school and up to high school. And I think I'm pretty sure actually the required knowledge stops at like 8th grade or 9th grader at some point like that. I think 9th grade math. So I think most people do it their junior year. I think that's usually when you should take your SATs or ACTs. But in terms of stressing out about them, you've been setting your whole life just by doing homework, just by getting, grades in school. You've been setting your whole life for these. So, well, you can certainly study some more, which is what most people do. Just make sure that you're always keeping in mind that it's going to be okay, because that's what you've been preparing for.
Okay, I would really like to leave some time for questions. So we compiled a bunch of miscellaneous tips. So I guess how do you survive until lunch? I'll just go through these, I guess. The upperclassmen have the opportunity to have third lunch, which is really, really late. But if you're a freshman or a sophomore, then you won't have third lunch, which means that your lunch won't be too late. But just in case, get a little, some snacks or a snack bar and just eat it during class. I think that's very important, and, you should be prepared. You should probably ask some upperclassmen for study guides. I give my underclassmen my final study guides at the end. And so maybe if you have upperclassmen friends, you might ask them for your. It's good to keep a record of what you've done, like an activities resume, because currently I'm a junior and I have to submit my a list of all the stuff that I've done or the projects I've made, so you can look back on it and see your track record, I guess. You can get free old AP review books from upperclassmen or families that are they have their kids going to college, and Chromebooks. I think similar to middle school, I think all the students get a Chromebook, and it's pretty sufficient to do all the work, and you probably should do all the work using a Chromebook. I think that's the district policy currently. Getting an internship, you can get it through many different ways, but it's not it's not a make or break for people. And get a lot of sleep, as we noted earlier. A lot of my friends were transitioning to using Messenger, and so that for incoming freshmen, I think, is something that you don't realize.
There's a question for math team, if anybody's on math team.
Okay, yeah.
I just sent the list. We can start from the beginning.
Okay, wait. I have resources too. So just I'll go quickly here for the resources. Rabbit Emu is a app with a TI-84 calculator emulator, which I find really, really, really helpful. If I forget my calculator, I can just use my phone. Built by Girls is a mentorship program which helps girls and non-binary high schoolers to build network and connects you with people with careers, and so you can learn from them and gain interviews and stuff. I have a website for micro scholarships. I think it's called Raise Me, and one for mental health resources.
About the idea of skipping grades in math. Usually what happens is your student will end up taking the final for the year that is the correct year. So for example, if you're trying to skip out of 10th grade math, you would probably take the 10th grade final your freshman year. And if you pass that, then you're basically able to skip 10th grade math and move on to pre-calc, which is 11th grade.
Adding on to that, I would suggest probably the easiest way to skip a grade in math would probably be from middle school to high school. So you would be skipping freshman year, or sometimes in rare cases freshman year and sophomore year, because if I remember correctly, if you want to skip, like, for example, sophomore year math, like you're taking freshman year and you want to skip sophomore year, you have to fill out a form to your teacher, and your math teacher has to approve of you taking the test first. And then, like, they look at your score on the test to see if you can actually pass, but not everybody gets to take the test in the first place. So that's an issue, but at the same time, I don't think skipping a grade in math is, like, too high on anyone's priority list. So even if you don't skip, I think you'll be fine.
What do math teachers want to see for skipping a grade for those of you who have done that? I think it's similar to
we just answered
that.
that.
There was a question about courses that can help teach about like resumes and how taxes work. I don't know about any resume. I don't think there's a course that teaches about resumes, but if someone wants to correct me, they can.
Wait, Queenie, can you send the questions to everybody?
I thought I did, but
yeah.
Okay, yeah, just make sure you have them.
For the one where it asks, like what Isabel brought up about the taxes and the resume, I'm pretty sure there's a personal finance class that you can take as an elective. I think someone said that was a thing. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it is. And also for the resume, you can always go ask your counselor, like your school counselor, kind of like advice on how to write a resume. Like I'm sure they'd be happy to help you. That's what they're here for. So
They also give out a template in the counselor recommendation packet, which comes out in your junior year. So you can just use that and probably ask for it early if you need it any earlier.
For suggestions on English class, like writing, obviously this depends on each student, but I think for me what helped was reading upperclassmen's like essays in general. It doesn't even need to be on the essay that you're writing, but just getting to know and read examples, that really helped, as well as going to your teacher if you need that extra help. Teachers are usually willing to sit down and give you some feedback, obviously not help you write your essay. I think that comes with practice, and teachers are really aware of that. So just be patient with writing and just read a lot of samples.
Sorry. Was the question about the type of English class you should take, or is it about tips for English? Because
I think it's tips for like how to write for.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I think if that question's been answered, we also have a question about taking chamber in grade 11. So I took chamber. I've been taking orchestra, that is, since freshman year. And it really depends if you value orchestra as a class, because I really, really enjoy orchestra. And I think everyone that comes to chamber is like an amazing musician and loves music, which means the class is very fun and very enriching. So if that's something that you value, then I would say stay in chamber until you graduate. That's what I'm planning to do. But if you really, really have another class that you want to take and you absolutely can't fit it into your schedule, then, I mean, it depends on your priorities. But also, if you want to take chamber and also take like another class and it doesn't fit into your schedule, you can defer your gyms until later, because you can take fewer gyms in freshman year and then take them in senior year instead, which is what I'm going to do. So yeah, I would say take chamber if you're interested in music, but if you really have something else that you want to do, then do it.
What I have to say about deferring gyms is, like, also this like really depends. So like as you get higher up in your grade level, more and more electives will be open to you. So if you want to take side electives, make sure it's important to, I guess, look over what classes you plan to take when they become available to you, and like plan your gyms, get them done accordingly so you have space.
LHS also doesn't have an academic decathlon team. I know that was a question, but if you're really interested in that, you could definitely start it. I don't see why not.
Going back to the resume question from like I don't know, like 5 minutes ago. I'm pretty sure there's a college jumpstart camp that LHS holds every summer, and I went to that and I thought it was very helpful. They teach you how to like set up everything, and you get time to work on your essays and your activity resume, including like making a list of schools and like organizing all that. I'm not sure if they're going to have it this year, but I'm pretty sure they have it every year, so you can keep an eye out. It's like offered to rising seniors the summer of. I think it's in August.
And also just looking up online resume templates, like those are also an option, just as just a beginner to writing a resume.
Yeah, so if that's all the questions, we can end the meeting.
Or do you want to end the meeting with
Yeah, should I end the Zoom? Yeah, so thank you guys for coming to our presentation today. Sorry about these Zoom bombers. I didn't expect this to be bombed, but yeah, thank you so much for coming to our presentation today. We were very delighted to share our experiences in LHS with y'all.
Rachel,
yeah.
Did we share our if we want to like share our emails so that way they can ask any questions?
Oh yeah. So yeah, everyone just like put your email, I guess, in the chat if you want your information or if you want parents to reach out to you specifically. So. I have a whole shelf of AOPS books. I bought the pre-calculus one and a bunch of them, like, you know, all the green ones. Like I took an AOPS class for like the EMCs if you really want to do all the EMCs. But I mean, I think the class is really, really helpful. So if you're really wanting to do math team, you should just take the AOPS classes, I guess. All right, great. Yeah. So thank you for coming to listen to us share our experiences today. Thank you. Bye.